60 years, it's an awfully long time, but not long enough for the Dutch to forget the pain, the suffering, the loss, and the oppression of living under a brutal Nazi regime. And not long enough either to forget the role the Canadians played in the liberation of their country. The British and the Americans played a role, but the Canadians played the major role in the liberation of the Netherlands. Hello, I'm Peter Mansbridge in the town square here in Apeldoorn, Holland. It was our home base for a number of days of remarkable coverage in May of 2005 as the Dutch welcomed back many of the Canadians who'd liberated their country and remembered those days. The Nazis conquered Holland in just 4 days. Their brutal occupation lasted 5 years. Through persecution, deportations, repressive laws, summary executions, and a final last winter of starvation. The occupation was ended by Canadian troops. The Dutch have never forgotten. Today, Holland expresses its everlasting gratitude to its Canadian liberators.
The 60th anniversary of VE Day. From Apeldoorn, Holland, here is Peter Mansbridge.
The first of the parade route, just starting, they'd all congregated in a park in downtown Apeldoorn, and they're just starting off now as the parade begins. There's a lot of different groups in the parade. This one, obviously, young kids involved in this end. It's a number of young Dutch athletes escorted by a torchbearer with the flame of freedom. There you got the B-25, American bomber aircraft. It was the centerpiece plane in that fly past. It was also flown by a number of Canadians during the Second World War as well. Governor General. That's the DC-3 we saw a little earlier, known by a variety of names, the Dakota aircraft, the DC-3. Governor General's been here all week, and Princess Beatrix of the Netherlands, born in Queen Beatrix. Her sister, Princess Marguerite, was born in Ottawa during the war. The Queen was in attendance earlier this morning, a couple of hours ago actually, here in the Netherlands at a service at the U.S. cemetery where George Bush was also in attendance and spoke with thanks to the Dutch and thanks from the Dutch for the American role.
Peter, it's worth noting that there are more than 8,000 American dead in that cemetery at Maastricht, and there are another 1,000 names of soldiers who have no known grave. So the Americans paid a heavy price as well in liberating Holland and breaking into Germany along the southern route.
Once again, the old vehicles, from the Jeeps to the motorcycles that were used 60 years ago, being restored. Keep Them Rolling, I think, is the name of the group that's been involved in keeping all these.
It's a Dutch organization of restorers, I guess, and they have an amazing collection of vehicles. When on my plane over here a week ago, there were some Canadians coming over to drive trucks with Keep Them Rolling, so they have international connections.
The parade route, a couple of kilometers long. Veterans and their medals reaching out, and quite a variety of different bands from both the Dutch forces and the Canadian forces involved in the parade itself. The Dutch windmill being held high, along with the flowers that have been thrown towards the veterans as they drive past. Let's go back into the crowd. Alison Smith is with us again. Alison.
All right, Peter. You know, we're just taking down umbrellas here. If you wait 5 minutes, the rain clears off. I'm here with Mark Telsma. And Mark, you're obviously too young to remember what happened 60 years ago, although those sounds are awfully reminiscent of the planes going overhead. Tell me why it's so important for you to be here in the front row today.
Well, I think it's important to remember those awful days 60 years ago, and I think we should remember them for a long time, for now and in the future. And because of these men, we are free today.
What were you told as a young boy about Liberation Day and the period that your family lived through?
Well, yeah, they didn't tell me much about it. It was too awful to tell about. So the things I know, I saw on television, and well, my grandfather told me, yeah, some things, but not much. But he always told me that it is very important to remember this day, to celebrate liberation. Yeah, it's very important. Even today, with all the other wars, I think it's important to remember it. Yeah. That is why I'm here.
Thank you very much. Just standing behind Mark here are some Canadians, and Peter, and you're from Halifax?
From Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm Brad Brown. This is John Harrison and Mike Alexander. The three of us are sailors on the HMCS Montreal. Our ship is up in Germany right now, and we took today and this weekend to come down and do some touring. And this is an amazing thing to have run across. We came across, it's almost like Canada Day over in Holland. It's amazing.
Tell me what kind of sentiments this arouses for you.
A lot of national pride. It's, I said, a lot like Canada Day. There's Canada flags everywhere. The people are happy. They're wearing Canada flag pins. It's...
Thank you. Thank you. We saw thank you boys with Canadian flags and all the windows when we were driving in here. It's really, really proud to be Canadians.
I was going to say, sometimes you don't see that at home.
That's right. And members of the Canadian Forces as well.
Thanks very much for taking this time with me. All right, Peter. So you can see the mix in the crowd here, and some very young Canadian servicemen as well taking part in this parade.
Most of the chaps in the parade today are our Army, we're infantry, but you'll see through the bands and through the fly past that all the various arms of the services are being remembered here.
And through this honor guard, which is made up of Army, Navy, and Air Force, the Army contingents basically coming from militia and regular regiments that were part of 1st Canadian Army in the liberation of Holland. So an effort was made to put together a guard of about 100 representing the three services, and they have been drilling quite hard. I saw them practicing for a couple of hours in a cold, wet day, and they, in fact, look very good indeed.
As the flowers continue to pile up on the vehicles as they head along the streets, and the veterans reaching out to touch the hands of so many in the crowds of all ages. And, you know, keep remembering that when you watch these pictures, and you just see the variety of ages on behalf of those who have lined the streets here. And as we said, they've come from all over the country. The Apeldoorn parade is known worldwide. It's certainly known in this country. And they are here. They say this is the last one. And it may well be in terms of one this size. Obviously, we're losing our veterans every day. We lose a lot to the ravages of old age. But boy, we're not seeing that today on the part of these chaps who are really into it. Let's go back down, talk with Anne McMillan. Anne.
Peter, as the veterans were marching past, I spotted someone that we met a year ago at the D-Day celebration, or commemoration, Sam Wormington. Welcome back. You were marching at a very brisk pace.
Yes, yeah, that's it.
How's it feel to be back here?
Oh, good, real good. Well, the crowd, oh boy, it's big. I've been here twice before.
How's it compare?
Oh, this is the biggest, I think. Yeah.
And what are people saying to you as you march past?
Thank you. You know, yeah. We've been giving out pins and and poppies and that. Oh yeah, really like it.
You were here not exactly in Apeldoorn, but you were in the Netherlands 60 years ago.
Yeah.
What were you doing?
60 years ago? Well, we were kind of fighting, yeah. Hoping there was no Germans around, but there was, yeah. And also shooting at aircraft, planes, if they were here.
Well, you better go back and catch up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for talking.
Kiss on the cheek.
Oh.
Thank you.
Well, Peter, on that very romantic note. Okay, go on. You go and find your...
I have to walk. I have to come back and find you to find my...
Well, that's great. We unfortunately missed that on camera, Anne, but we could tell what was happening. I think there were a few cheeks kissed on this day 60 years ago, too, as they marched through town on the first VE Day, although VE Day really does depend on which country you're a part of here and throughout Europe. Tomorrow, the Russians celebrate their VE Day, their Victory Day, and the Dutch have celebrated a number of days, marked a number of days in this past week, including their Remembrance Day.
It's not really a parade, it's kind of a mingling of crowd and marchers. I'm delighted to see so many veterans marching. I think it's great.
Well, they certainly are in this shot. Let's listen in and catch a few of those thank yous on our microphones.
What's that? Peter, this is the 48 Highlanders of Holland, a pipe band started here some 20 years ago, all Dutch, but they wear 1945 uniforms. They think of themselves as a living memorial, and they are, by every report, I'm not a judge of pipe band music, but they are, by every report, very good indeed, and they play all around Europe. The pipe major from the 48th Highlanders in Toronto comes across a couple times a year to work with them, so they're well known. There's another living memorial, the Seaforth Highlanders of Holland pipe band. A little bit of Canadian-Scottish tradition will live on in Holland.
You know, we've focused, not surprisingly so, on the veterans, the men who were young those many years ago. But as we've seen just in the past few moments, there are women here as well who played a significant role, especially in that last year of the war on the ground here in Europe.
There were nursing sisters who were there from the beginning of the war right through to the end. There were quacks, WAFs, and wrens, women soldiers, sailors, and airmen. They weren't in combat roles, but they did everything else, from wireless to drivers to cooking to secretarial services. And they were all over Europe, mainly in Holland, mainly quacks and WAFs, but doing every kind of job.
The main, well, and there's one right now. The main reviewing area that's headed by Princess Marguerite, Governor General, and their spouses as the veterans move past. And it's raining now, a little harder than it was a few minutes ago, as Alison and Ann have mentioned. Just wait 5 minutes and the weather changes here. We know there are lots of places in Canada that say that as well as their motto about the weather, and this is very much like that. So we've had sun and dark clouds intermingled here over the last bit. But it is a day where nobody seems to be complaining whatsoever about the weather. A day of memories and a day of thanks. Well, the perils of the job are one that are taken with a certain degree of delight on this day for us. You heard Anne a few minutes ago in her conversation with one of the vets, and clearly there was something going on, but at that particular moment it was off camera. We wanted you to see what actually happened on camera. We were rolling on that, and here it is.
Thank you very much for talking.
On the cheek. Oh!
Well, Peter, on that very romantic note. Okay, go on. You go and find your...
I have to walk. I have to come back and find it.
All right, great little moment there. And as we said, that was the kind of thing that was happening in so many parts of the Allied countries on this day 60 years ago. We've seen the scenes from the streets of Canada, battling the bands here in Apeldoorn. Let's listen in.
Een grote aantallen gebouwd. Het merendeel werd gebouwd door Prins, terwijl het fort weliswaar een kleiner aantal bouwde, maar meer aandacht besteden aan de details. Zoals ieder onderdeel van het fort was gemaakt door een echtje tot in het meest kleine detail.
You look pretty, at least you're out of the rain up there.
Well, I got so excited I wouldn't know if it was raining or not.
All right.
Thank you. Hey, hi.
Hi.
How's it been?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah?
Yep.
You're out of the rain.
Yeah, they're super people. They're super people.
That's
What's the... Godrich, Ontario. How's this been? Oh, fantastic.
We're having one hell of a good time.
British Columbia.
Allemaal een race die gevolgd door een Dodge DC-51. DC-51 staat voor de 3/4 tons Dodge zonder wielen. 4 aangedreven 4 wielen.
Right, the Jeeps continuing on through the parade route here in Apeldoorn. That was quite the moment with Allison chasing the vehicle down the road to get a few comments. And I think she's got some more right now, Allison.
Tell me what this has been like for you.
Oh, it's just absolutely indescribable. Indescribable. Absolutely beautiful. These people here, they just cannot do enough for us.
Have you marched like this before?
I marched like this here 5 years ago and 10 years ago.
What means the most to you now, some 60 years later?
Some 60 years later, the gratitude of the people of Holland and the way they feel toward the people of Canada. We just have something, there's a bond between our two countries that is just simply beautiful, hard to say.
Thanks very much for taking this time with me. Your feet are holding up?
Oh yes, fine. Oh yeah, I'm fine. Oh yeah.
Enjoy the parade.
One other 5. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And you know, when you talk to these chaps, Jack, in the evening here in Apeldoorn, and I'm sure again tonight, it really is that the nature of how they are overcome by the gratitude, even though they've seen it before in the streets here, that it's still there and that it washes across the generations.
And that it doesn't go away. It continues. And I think that soldier that Allison was talking to, the gratitude really has created something very special. Every Canadian I've ever met who's been to the Netherlands, veteran or not, has commented on how well Canadians are received. And they really are well received. It's the one country in the world that actually seems to know who Canadians are and to recognize us as something pretty special.
The umbrellas are out again as the rain starts to come down once again. It's not a heavy downpour, but it's bad enough that they want those umbrellas out. But the veterans themselves out in it with their ponchos on. Keep in mind that the weather was pretty brutal here 60 years ago. Let's listen in here again with Allison.
I'm going to take them all home with me.
Very good. Excellent. It's very touching to see such a crowd.
You've got a beard, too.
Yeah, I have.
Where are you from?
From Toronto, Canada.
How's this been for you?
I am overwhelmed. I just can't believe it. It's beautiful.
You be careful there, Allison. I don't know how long your cable is. I expect to see you jolted at any moment. Some of the chaps from southern Ontario. There was a mix here that are represented today from many from Ontario, but also from BC.
There's people from all over the place. It's a typical planned Canadian contingent with representation of all kinds, male, female, every province, every territory. Aboriginal veterans, Army, Navy, Air Force, Merchant Marine. It's very carefully balanced. And so it should be. It was very carefully balanced during the war, too, as people volunteered from all across Canada.
Sorry?
And I know it's... Well, let's listen to more of this.
Ceiling over our heads.
Look at the wet.
You know, it's a point that I know you make often, Jack, and it's a point worth remembering, that this was until the final months of the war, an all-volunteer force that the Canadians offered up on the ground, in the air, and the water.
An all-volunteer force abroad. We did have conscripts at home, and they were only serving at home until November 1944, when the government decided it needed some 16,000 infantry reinforcements. It wasn't that there was a shortage of soldiers overall, there was a shortage of infantry. And so 16,000 home defense conscripts were sent overseas. Only about 2,500 or so actually got into the front lines. But had the war gone on a little bit longer, they would have had to serve.
All right, let's go down to Ann McMillan. Ann.
Right. I was going to try to interview somebody in an open car here, Peter, and I see somebody coming, so we're going to walk very slowly up here with our cable, hoping that it will last this long.
Just looking for
and
another
let's see who we've got here. Oh, yeah, that's right. Hello there. You look as if you're having a great time.
Oh, we're having a great time. Wonderful.
And you're not even getting wet.
No, we're not. Very lucky.
Hi there.
Hello.
Are you having a good time?
Oh, lovely. This is a beautiful parade.
Who gave you those flowers?
Those lovely girls. Lovely girls.
Have you been here before?
15 years ago.
How's this compare?
But this is very good. This is good. It's grand, but it's good. I'm enjoying my visit. I just saw my host down there, down the street here. Just
Hello there. I like your flowers.
Yes, for you.
Oh my goodness, you romantic, don't you?
Just for you. We love you all. Even here in Canada.
Now, are you having a good time?
Yes. Yes. Yes or yeah, well.
Well, I'm actually Canadian. I'm from CBC.
Oh, I know that.
What were you doing 60 years ago?
Well, we were not too far from here. We were doing the thing that had to be done. Yeah.
Thanks for coming back.
I'm going back
Lovely to see you.
Paris.
Are you having a good time there, sir?
Oh, splendid. This is fantastic.
Have you been here before?
I was here in '95, but it's the same, but it's still overwhelming. It's a terrific experience. Yeah.
I hope you enjoy the rest of your stay.
Thank you very much.
So, Peter, a lot of very happy veterans here. They're getting royal treatment.
They sure are. And deservedly so, would say the Dutch. They remember these chaps when they were here 6 decades ago, came through this part of their world, brought them freedom from oppression. Back to Allison again.
Where are you from?
Well, I'm with the CBC. Where are you from?
Ottawa.
And how's this march been for you?
Oh, it's easy.
It's
A little wet, but it's not bad.
Tell me where the flowers are from.
Some girl just gave them to me. Little kid.
Tell me about what that means to you.
Oh, well, that's sweet. It's a nice gesture. Absolutely. Excuse me.
You've got quite a bouquet.
You look as if you're nice and dry.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to stay dry, but I'm not worrying about the weather. I can enjoy the people, whether it's wet or dry.
What sort of things are people saying to you?
Well, they're just saying thank you. I've been back 6 times, and every time it's surprising. I enjoy it immensely. The magnetism between us and the Dutch people is terrific, and I enjoy it.
Perhaps we should keep walking here. We're going to get run over.
Oh.
So you've walked the whole route so far?
Oh, yes. I'm only 82, so I should be able to walk it for a while yet. Yeah.
What sort of memories come back to you at a time like this?
Oh, yes. The cemeteries bring back the biggest memories. But again, we were young when we walked through the stones again. We see the stones 18, 19, 20. I was 22 when I went back, and I'd had 5 years of it, so I was young too. We were school kids without a school. Yeah.
And it must be very gratifying to know that you're so appreciated.
That's right, especially in Holland. Especially in Holland, because they never forget. The children all know what happened in the war. We've neglected to tell our children that in Canada, but in Holland they tell them. The kid asks you a question, answer right, because they know the answer already. But it's just terrific that these people can look out for us, and then they come back and visit us too in Canada. so it's good for the tourist trade.
Well, thank you very much. You better keep going or you'll lose your group.
I don't have a group, I'm alone. I'm operating alone. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Ann, thanks. Let's go to Allison. Allison's got a guess, too.
Tell me what this march has been like for you.
Oh, this is terrific. Very nice people. This is my third trip to Holland in peacetime, and I've had 2 trips here during the war.
Is it emotional?
Yes, it is. And especially when you go and visit the cemeteries. And we always really owe a greater debt to the cemeteries than the people owe to us, see.
So what have you been thinking about as you've been coming along the parade route today?
Well, we've been just kind of overwhelmed with all the people. As in Holland, they just get nicer and nicer all the time. You can't beat as they say, the Dutch are much, eh? Okay?
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
More Jeeps, more vehicles, more bands. Okay, Allison, where you go?
Well, are you having a good ride?
Wonderful. It's extraordinary. I never realized this. This is the first time I've come on a parade in my life.
Does it bring back memories?
It absolutely does, yes. The people are so generous here. You can't believe it.
Do you remember Liberation Day yourself?
Yes, certainly. I was in Haarlem at that time. That's farther north than here. Yeah. We went through Haarlem, and then we stayed there for about a week, and then I flew to England.
So were the celebrations around liberation anything like this?
No. Well, not exactly like this, no. I think it's much better organized now.
Does it make you feel young again?
Absolutely, yes. I don't feel 68 at all no more.
Absolutely. We'll let you get on with the parade. Thank you.
That's a great line. Much better organized now than it was 60 years ago. Now, as he's mentioned, Jack, he was further north than Apeldoorn in the Netherlands, and where the fighting continued right down to the last minute and beyond in some cases.
Well, at Delfzijl on the North Sea, the 5th Canadian Armored Division was fighting after Hitler was already dead by his own hand, and there was very heavy fighting. In fact, the Cape Breton Highlanders, in their history of the war, called this battle at Delfzijl the hardest fight of the war for the regiment. Imagine, Hitler already dead, the Germans, everybody knowing that Germany is defeated, and yet the Cape Breton Highlanders are fighting their hardest battle of the war after having fought their way through Italy. It's simply extraordinary when you think of that. You might ask why we had to keep on shooting when everyone knew that the war was over. Part of the reason was that you wanted to make sure that the Germans really would surrender and had to maintain pressure on them. But also you had to reassure the Soviet Union that we weren't trying to pull out of the war ahead of them, that we were really in it for real and that we were doing our part, we, the Western Allies. And it was important, I think, to continue showing that the West was participating in the war, a war that, to be honest, the Soviet Union did most of the heavy lifting on, right through to the end.
All right. Okay, Allison, tell me you may have a guest with you.
Okay.
Allison?
All right. We're just wading into the crowd here, Peter, with one veteran who's walking between all of these trucks. Tell me about how this march has been.
Very good, very good. It's progressing very well, a little bit wet once in a while, but everything is going fine.
Does it bring back memories?
It brings back memories, and we are so grateful for the number of people that are out today. It's just tremendous. The people of Holland are, I don't know how to explain it. They're so gratifying, you know, so it's just tremendous.
Have you been kissed a few times?
Oh, a few times, yes.
So
yes.
You know what? You've got a little
yeah,
bit of
that's right. I got all over.
Cheek.
I don't know what my wife is going to say when she sees me, you see. But,
all right, we'll let you get on with it. You know what? This isn't rain anymore, Peter. This is hail.
I've noticed in the last couple of years, and I think some of it traces back to what you said about the coverage that the 50th anniversary of this and D-Day got 10 years ago. That many people in our generation, Jack, who still have had the opportunity to talk to their parents who were in the war, have gone to the trouble to try and document some of those memories, either through literally interviewing their fathers and their mothers about what it was like, to try and keep it as a family treasure that passes on down. And you know, it's incredibly important if you've got that opportunity to do it.
But it's more than just a family memory, it's a national memory. And really it's important that those kinds of memories be collected centrally as much as possible. And people who have done this should send that kind of transcript or those tapes to the National Archives or to the Canadian War Museum or to their provincial archives or the regimental archives. And if they haven't done it, they should do it, because the time is running out and there won't be too many more years when you can get Grandpa's memories, and it's important that they be preserved. And if there are letters and photographs, those too need to be preserved.
Let's listen to Alison again. Here, Alison.
Great. Tell me how you're doing, how the march has been.
Oh, it's been wonderful. Yeah? It really has been.
Does it bring back memories for you?
Very much.
Yeah?
Yeah.
In what way?
Well, I was here in Apeldoorn in 1945, and there wasn't this much happiness then. It's wonderful to see the people so happy and everything, you know.
Thank you for taking the time with me. Hope you dry out soon.
Oh, we will.
Wow, that was great. That was a great moment. You know, it's days like this that the VIPs, I mean, it's great that they're here and they're taking the march past, but
they're not the stars.
No, they seem so insignificant in the light of just that remarkable few seconds that Alison captured with that woman.
I'm now joined by more Canadians. Everywhere I look in this crowd, there are Canadians, and here's one I couldn't miss. Vernon, BC. Tell me what your sign's all about.
Well, our sign is about veterans. These are our personal friends in Vernon, BC, Fred and Fern Plomp, from Dutch origin, but he was born in Toronto. He's 82 years old. He was a veteran. He was in the fight of the island of Walcheren in Zeeland, where he fought, and really hard fought, there to liberate Holland. Our mission was to come to Apeldoorn, where we knew this fest was going to be, and to say personally thank you to the Canadian veterans here in place, where obviously on an almost daily basis I meet veterans in Canada. It is more worthy to do it from here.
Now you tell me that you were born here, but you moved to Canada.
That's right.
So do you have any memories of this period 60 years ago?
Yes, I do. My most vivid memory was in '45. I was a little guy, but yet because we were hungry, we did anything to get something to eat. So we lived about 150 meters from the railroad station, and we were cleaning the cannons for the Germans with oiled rags, and as payment we would get food from them. So on this one day, after we had cleaned the cannons, the air alarm sounded and the bombers came, and we had to run like crazy to get home. And I was just inside the door, and it went boom, 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 and the whole railroad station was gone, where we had been 15, 20 seconds before. So that's the most vivid one for me. But also I remember, to be hungry, we ate, often people think that we ate tulip bulbs, but we ate sugar beets, and raw. And we just grind them with our teeth down to get anything to eat.
So you must be very happy to see the Canadians with...
I remember on Liberation Day that 4 officers, one of them American, one Brit, one French and one Canadian officer, they came after a group of soldiers who had cleaned the streets of the Germans. They came finally through and said it was clear. And then right after there came a parade to town of anybody, and they were all dancing. The flags were out, red, white and blue obviously, and the orange. And it was just fantastic.
And this is the big one. The parade in Apeldoorn has been known for years as the centerpiece of the big celebrations and memorials that take place here each year for VE Day. But this one, the 60th anniversary, of course, a major one. Huge crowds here 10 years ago when we were here for the 50th, and when we reported 20 years ago on the 40th, and once again this time. The veterans, you hear them all talking about, you know, many of them saying, I'll never get back again. And then this last chap conceding, well, you know, he might try. But this is pretty well acknowledged as the last major event in terms of a huge organized event in terms of remembering VE Day years on here in Holland. So other events in years to come will probably be much smaller and organized more on a personal basis.
And Peter, this is a very fitting way to end the series of commemorations of VE Day in Holland. It seems to me, as your viewers know, it's been raining very heavily, some hail as well. And the crowd hasn't moved. The crowd has stayed through it all. I'm absolutely astonished. You'd think people would scurry for cover, but they stay there because they want to say goodbye to these veterans. They want to congratulate them. They want to touch them. And it's really remarkable to see. Just off beside us, there are a bunch of children who have been taken by their mothers out to shake hands with veterans. The kids don't know what they're doing, but they will be told at some point. And it's quite remarkable to watch.
I remember, I've written about this before, but 10 years ago, Brian Stewart going into the crowd talking to a young mother, asking why she'd brought her child, a 4 or 5-year-old, who was reaching out and touching the Canadian vets as they walked by. I said, you know, why are you doing this? And she said, I wanted him to see now what a Canadian is. And for a country that has so much trouble trying to answer that ourselves, that's right. It was pretty nice to hear coming from her. But it was very simple for her, just a scene just like that. Yeah. A Canadian was and is, as they are for most Dutch, somebody who took them out of a particular hell and ended the Second World War for them and gave them freedom once again. And when you have something like that happen, as the mayor of Apeldoorn told us at that time, you never forget it, and you don't want anybody else to forget it either.
Well, and the veterans haven't forgotten it. And the great Canadian angst about who we are really looks pretty silly from where we're sitting today. The vets know who they are, the Dutch know who they are, and you know, most Canadians at home, they know who we are too.
The Governor General watches. Let's go back down into the crowd to one of our own cameras following Anne McMillan. And they've had quite a day doing that. Anne.
The rain stopped, so that's the good news here. And the other good news is that I've discovered two very nice ladies from Northern Ontario in the crowd. Can you introduce yourself and tell me why you're here?
I'm Elda Tibbles, and I'm from Englehart, Ontario. That's Northern Ontario, and I'm here because my husband was a veteran, and he spent 5 years on the continent from the day he arrived till the day he left. 5 full years.
And he's no longer with us?
No, he hasn't. He's been gone for 14 years.
You think he would have enjoyed this?
Oh, he'd have loved it.
Have you been back before?
Yes, I have.
So you're quite an old veteran on these events.
10 years ago I was here.
And how does this compare?
Oh, it's much more... much bigger than when I was here before. Yeah, it's just...
And are you being well treated by the Dutch?
Good. Oh, yes, I certainly have. Both times.
Well, thank you very much. And are you enjoying yourself?
Very much. Very much.
What's a highlight for you?
Oh, the people. The people have been just wonderful. Yes.
Well, thank you very much. And back to you, Peter.
Thanks, Anne. We'll stay with comments from the crowd as we go down to Alison Smith. Alison.
All right, Peter, thanks very much. I'm here with a mother and a daughter, and you remember liberation. Tell me what happened.
Je herinnert je de bevrijding. Wat gebeurde er toen?
Ja, vrijheid en eten.
There was freedom and there was food.
Tell me why it was important for you to be at the parade today.
Waarom is het belangrijk om hier te zijn? Op de parade.
Een stukje dankbaarheid.
a little bit of to show how grateful she is and how thankful she is to all the veterans.
Is it emotional for her?
Is it emotional?
Yes,
yes, very. Yes, very emotional.
What have you been remembering?
Wat heb je je herinnerd? Wat zijn je herinneringen vandaag?
Vandaag dat mijn vader dus weggevoerd is en met bevroren voeten thuis kwam. Dat vreselijk was en dat hij dat niet overleefd heeft.
My father was deported to a concentration camp in Reis, nearby in Germany, and he came back with frozen feet, and he didn't survive. Short after the war, he died.
You've been thinking about him today.
Yes. Je denkt aan hem vandaag.
Yes, ik
Yes.
Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me. I see you're wearing a Canadian flag.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Peter, the memories are really, as I mentioned earlier, I think in the faces of the people who you know when you look at them, that they remember liberation and their own personal memories of the war.
Sure do, and that short first answer.
Freedom and food.
Freedom and food.
Yeah, and they went together. If you were starving, food was probably the first essential you needed, and the Canadians brought food with them, and some units went on short rations so they could feed the civilians around them. But freedom came, I guess it came when the Germans left, but freedom is something that you become aware of, I suspect, only gradually. The Dutch had a difficult time immediately after the occupation ended. They had to round up their collaborators. There were Dutch SS units that had to be disarmed and eventually tried. I think we mentioned the concentration camp at Westerbork earlier, where Jews were held prior to being shipped to Auschwitz. After the liberation, that camp was used to house Dutch collaborators while they were screened to see who was guilty of particular atrocities and who was not. There's a certain wonderful irony in that camp being used for that purpose. Its freedom is hard. The food can be fixed over time. Freedom takes time to reestablish, time to put back into people's minds. The Dutch did it very well, I think, on the whole.
Let's check in with Anne McMillan once again. Anne?
Well, I've managed to stop a car here, and I found a very nice veteran. Who are you, and what were you doing 60 years ago?
60 years ago there, I was here in Holland, and we liberated Breda. But I was wounded at Berenas in October, evening 6:30. That was evening that you can see bullet all the way.
Are you a Polish veteran?
Yes, I was first Polish division.
And you moved to Canada after the war?
And after I moved to England, because I was wounded, I recovered in England and I moved to Canada. Lovely country. And I am citizen of Canada now, but Polish representing 60 years ago. And I come to Canada after 60 years, such beautiful people, open heart, and they want to welcome all veterans, all the best. Goodbye, and thank you, and God bless you.
Thanks, Anne. A couple of great stories there. We should start on that last one because Poland, of course, was a country that was invaded from both sides. Once, from the Russians
in 1939.
In 1939, first by the Germans and then the Russians. They carved up Poland and then started fighting each other almost 2 years later. However, many of the Dutch forces, or some of them, managed to get out and fight as free forces with the Allies, including this chap. And there was a group of Polish soldiers who were part of the 1st Canadian Army.
Well, the Poles formed part of 1st Canadian Army in August 1944 in the fighting around Falaise, and then in the liberation of Holland. They were good soldiers indeed, and they fought with us and beside us. And at the end of the war, as this veteran did, a lot of them came to Canada. They didn't want to go back to Poland, which was in the hands of the Russians, so they came with us.
I want to show you how the weather's turned here. If we can just move in on these umbrellas, you'll see how it's hailing again here at the end of the route. And that's, you know, not a pretty sight, and it's, you know, it obviously can be dangerous if you're not undercover. But, you know, nobody's moving.
Nobody's moving. It's absolutely extraordinary. They just stand there and take it and cheer.
Yeah.
And they are cheering every truck that goes by with its cargo of veterans, and every marching veteran they cheer.
All right, Allison's down in the midst of all this nasty weather. Allison?
Well, you want my hat?
Yeah. No, that's
okay. I thought, well, Peter, I'm in heavy negotiations here for my Canada hat, but I'm with Raadhuisplein, who's from Grimsby, Ontario, but you were born in Holland.
Yes.
What do you remember about the Canadians and liberation?
I was born in 1936, so I was 4 years when it started, and I still remember the war very much, that we had hunger and no heat, no electricity. But the most I remember is when I was 9 years old and the Canadians came in our city. It was the 15th of April, 1945. The Canadians came in our city, and we were so enjoyed. They came with chocolates. My mom, it was in the spring, of course, and Mom had just made rhubarb. And of course, rhubarb without sugar does not taste very well. And she said, why don't you go to the Canadians and ask for some sugar? He had a big pail, and he grabbed a handle full of sugar right in the rhubarb, and it just tasted so wonderful. So I still remember the Canadians. I was at that time 9 years old, and thank you very much, Canada, for doing that for us. And today it's a really beautiful day to be here, even if it's raining. God bless. God bless Canada. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, Peter.
Thanks,
Rhubarb
Alan.
never tasted so sweet, I bet.
Yeah, I bet. Stay undercover there. It's raining and hailing here in Apeldoorn, Holland. But the parade continues, and so do the thank yous. And so does the gracious acceptance of those thank yous from Canadian veterans.
Called Achterveld, where snipers were holed up in the church tower.